Steve, I would say, there are two big basket of issues that we should be looking at. These are the two drivers, in fact, in the last 20 years of a stronger relationship. One is the geopolitical basket. The other is people tie. Each one is a game changer in themselves. They reinforce each other. They have in the last 20 years. And I think they have the potential to actually create a very durable relationship between India and the United States. Now, to do that, let me start with the geopolitical side. I think the US really has to learn to work in a sense, with a more multipolar world, with more plurilateral arrangements, go beyond alliances with which really it has grown up over the last two generations. Now, it would be, I'm now specifically referring to India, given our history of independence and the fact that we really are coming from different places. There will be issues on which our convergence would be more, somewhere it would be less. I think the quest in the last 20 years, and I see that continuing into the future, is really to find more common ground. Now, I think Amos, in his initial remarks, spoke about working together in changing the world. And I think we have the ability today, by working together, to shape the world. We are working on maritime security, counter-terrorism, connectivity, how to respond in the case of Corona to pandemics, even issues like climate change, the knowledge economy. So I think a large part of it is how do we actually, while strengthening our bilateral agenda, shape a larger agenda. And my own sense, having worked with many previous administrations and the current one, actually intuitively American administrations have been going down that way, looking really how to engage countries like India more effectively. We've seen that results, and perhaps they did so less consciously in the past. They now need to do it more purposefully. So that's the geopolitical side. On the people-to-people side, look, when India became independent, there were 3,000 Indian Americans living in the United States. Today, there are more than 4 million, and perhaps a few million more Indian citizens on non-immigrant visas. Now, what that has done is, it has given a new quality to that relationship. It's created the image, the branding of the relationship, a completely new network, including, we see that, I'm sure, Senator, you'd agree with me, particularly in respect of the Congress. But most of all, it has created a bonding between the two societies. And to my mind, how to nurture this bonding, and it's a bonding which is today very much centered around talent, talent that is so central to our economy, to innovation, to technology, to our relationship in that sense. So if we are looking at what I would call a globalized knowledge economy world, to my mind, some of the key answers, the principles on which we should be building this relationship, is really to recognize and build on trusted talent and on creating more resilient supply chains on which both of us participate. Steve, yesterday, I think my colleague, the Trade Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, actually addressed some of these issues. He described the discussions which are taking place between him and USTR. So I don't want to qualify or sort of reiterate really what he said, but I want to make a look. I understand the importance, not just importance, the almost the centrality of economic relations, because at the end of the day, I mean, even if I didn't learn it as a diplomat, believe me, I learned it in the Tata's bread. These are bread and butter issues. These are really what make countries deal with each other. But I think between India and the United States, while we work through trade issues, we need to think bigger. In terms of trade, I would say the last few years have been dominated by a conversation about your complaints and our complaints, and depending on where you sit, it looks a little bit different. My sense is it's in our mutual interest, and I know Mr. Goyal stated that very clearly, that We need to resolve the sort of these pending problems and move on to something bigger. I think there's a lot of interest here in doing that. But beyond trade, there is a much bigger connect between our two countries, which is a sort of a knowledge innovation connect. I think Senator Warner also referred to it. And if you look at where the world is going, I think beyond an exchange of goods and creating better investment climates for each other, this ability to work together in the world of innovation and technology, I think that is really what will set our relationship apart. There, it is vital that we have a sort of a very strong convergence on the big picture. That we see the world, the landscape looks similar to us, aspirations are more shared. I think definitely in all of this, values do matter, because at the end of the day, when you work on technology, on innovation, on knowledge, trust and confidence are very, very important factors. So I would give a lot of emphasis to resolving our trade problems, trying to take the sort of the journey into a higher gear than it has been before. I do believe it's very possible, because I'm very wired to what's going on the trade side. But I'd make one other point, which is, look, India is also changing. Okay, there are new capabilities which are emerging in India. There are domains where today we have a presence and a mastery which we may not have had some years earlier. So in a sense, a lot of our conversations reflect the conversation. It's a sort of a rebalancing of the world economy conversations, where up and coming players have somewhat different concerns than established players. Established players obviously want, in many cases, the advantages which work for them currently to continue in the long run. I think it would be fair to accommodate the legitimate concerns of emerging economies, emerging companies, emerging technologies, and that harmonization, how well we do that, I think that's a very important part of our relationship building. And there, I believe that organizations like USIBC can play a very critical role.